in the day, teenagers were able to do student pranks or senior pranks without any worry of criminal charges. Sure, there might have been some consequences, but it was unlikely that they would be charged with felonies. Well, fast forward to today, and all of a sudden, 2 North Carolina teenagers are facing very serious felony charges because of their role in a senior prank. Now, to give you some details on this, the seniors are Shannon Farrell and Lekia Hall. They face a felony charge of hoax by use of false bomb in a public building, a Class H felony, and obstruction of justice. So what did they do? Apparently they thought that it would be really funny to put alarm clocks in unused lockers and have them go off at different times of the day. Now, that made officials think that there was some sort of bomb scare, and authorities were called to the scene, and of course there was this huge panic as a result of it. And so the principal is saying, look, this isn't a laughing matter, this isn't a joke, and this isn't a harmless prank. People were genuinely concerned and worried, and so as a result, these harmless North Carolina teens should face felony charges and possibly jail time, prison time for what they did. What do you guys think about this?
I don't think that they should get jail time or felony time. Of course, what they did was wrong, but it's our job as adults and as teachers and as administrators to teach them what is right. You know, I try to encourage, I actually spoke here in Los Angeles, the LAUSD, they had a big forum, and I encourage the schools getting with the times of having a social media counselor. Because what I saw in this story was they talked about this on social media on Twitter. And any administrator who, if that was their main focus, could have caught this and went to the kids and said, this is inappropriate. You still have to make your choice, but let me help you understand what the ramifications are of social media and what you're about to do. Because a lot of these kids don't understand you're putting something out there and how it's going to affect you in 20 years, how it's going to affect you immediately. And so we have to think about that before we now make these children's lives harder because of them not having the maturity to make a responsible decision.
I see you, a social media spy in schools. No, there's definitely something to that because these conversations are happening on public forums over social media. The other thing that's unfortunate is, first of all, this is a story from North Carolina, where I'm from, North Cackalack, represent, thanks a lot. And the other thing is that the father actually knew one of the students, knew about the prank and also thought it was harmless. I mean, so there was an adult who didn't offer any advice or guidance as to maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you should think of something else. Apparently there was an alternative prank where everyone was going to bring their pets to school, which I'm like, that would have been chaos, but probably no one would have gotten a felony charge.
Yes. What's ironic about that is they decided against bringing their pets to school because no one wanted to get in trouble.
Exactly.
So they genuinely did not think that this would cause harm. And I think that whenever you're dealing with something as serious as felony charges, something like intent is very, very
important.
And the thing is, when you have stories like this, it really makes you realize that the terrorists have won. Because prior to 9/11, something like this would happen, and yeah, it would be a headache for administrators, but they would move on with their lives. They wouldn't pursue criminal charges against these teenagers. But in this case, it's like, oh my God, for a split second, we thought that there might have been a bomb on campus. And so as a result, we are going to lay down the law and we're going to prosecute you in the most serious way. And I just don't think that you're really keeping society safe. The whole point of prosecuting people is to keep society safe.
Exactly.
How are you going to keep society safe by, you know, imprisoning 2 North Carolina teenagers that were just trying to have fun?
You don't at all. It's not doing anything but wasting our time, our money as taxpayers, and then also harming these children's futures. There's a lesson that could be taught here, that could be taught to these kids, that could be taught to these parents, and could be taught to America about exactly where we are. And if you're not having that conversation, if you're just so quick to throw the book at children, then where do you expect us to be? No one's going to learn this lesson because no one is truly fearful of this. So there's going to be another kid that's going to do this. It's going to happen to them. And it's not going to start picking up until we start having the conversations with kids about social media, about their actions and what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just such a bummer jam that this is where we are in today's like post-Columbine, you know, like you said, 9/11 world where administrators react so aggressively.
There just needs to be better human judgment and, you know, just get rid of the zero tolerance policies, get rid of your need for a knee-jerk reaction and look at the situation in an objective way. And I don't think a lot of administrators do that. I think that they do things like this to kind of deter other teenagers from following suit, but you can deter them in other ways. You
Yes,
don't
you
have
can.
to basically destroy the lives of 2 teenagers. If they go to prison, they're done.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a felony record. Do you know how difficult it is to get a job when you have a felony record? They should be
Exactly.
worried about college, not going to prison for a prank.
And I'm sure there's tons of incentives they could have taken away from these kids, either going to games, going to prom, going to whatever.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be your first line of recourse. What about, I didn't read anywhere of how they involve the parents, because that would have been the next step for me of like, let's really get to the parents. If we're going to really have a discussion, let's talk to the parents, because you knew about it and you still encourage your kid to do this.
Yeah.
And so I understand that the parent wasn't, I'm not ganging up on the parent here, but as an administrator, that shouldn't be your first recourse, because
Yes.
you're not teaching the kids at all.
Yeah,
Very
it's
good
just
point.
another case of zero tolerance getting us nowhere.